We are joined by attorney Jeff O'Brien for our weekly 3 and Out. 3 stories, usually sports stories, usually having something to do with local things, but sometimes not. Now, Jeff, there's going to be, I think it's going to be a better national championship game than people envision, because I think Miami is actually going to make this a heck of a game. I still think Indiana will win, but both teams are products of the transfer portal. I mean, Francisco Mendoza came from the transfer portal from Cal to Indiana, and there's many, many more examples of that. And how about the Gophers? Are they the best team when it comes to the transfer portal? How are they doing in the portal?
They seem to be doing okay. The big news obviously was with the Gophers. The big news was Koi Perich entering the transfer portal.
Yes,
apparently he's got a visit scheduled with Texas Tech. So, but people are saying, oh, this could just be looking for more NIL money, that he could come back. But PJ Fleck is acting as if he's not coming back because he is out. The Gophers are bringing new players in through the transfer portal already, and presumably committing the NIL dollars to these new players.
They can't compete with the Texas Tech or some of these schools he's going to look at. And where are they getting their money? What kind of money the Gophers have to work with?
They have a NIL fund called Dinkytown Athletes. I don't know. Now, they don't have a backer the way Indiana has Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
Right. But they don't have somebody that just opens the checkbook. But they do have NIL funds. And, I've said this before, Bob, that, I have no issue with the NIL piece of this because, you and I both know players that did endorsements, did things at the college level and didn't have a lucrative professional career, be it because of, injuries or other reasons. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with them. And they don't go out and do internships for their major. They're in the weight room. They're conditioning. Their focus, for all practical purposes, Division I football has become the minor leagues for the NFL.
It has, and it's a job.
Yeah, the piece that I think where I think there should be anybody should look at for reforms is the transfer portal. If you remember years ago, if you transferred schools, you had to sit out a year.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying do that, but maybe there's a way to put some parameters on, lengths of these NIL deals, how long you have to stay with the school, how frequently you can use the transfer portal. That kind of leads into our other story with DeMond Williams from Washington, this bizarre story where he signs an NIL deal on January 2nd for $4 million. And a few days later, he announces he's going into the transfer portal. And his agent actually threatened to quit when this happened. And he, changed his mind and now is staying with Washington. But, it's stories like that. And there was another one years ago where there was somebody who signed with Alabama when Nick Saban was the coach. And then Saban left. And so then the Iowa boosters scrape together NIL funds. The kid goes there, and before spring practices even is over, he goes back in the transfer portal with a mitt full of cash from Iowa and goes and recommits and goes to Alabama.
See, you have to give it a commitment. If you take that money, you just can't leave with it.
Right. Because essentially what we've got right now, Bob, is picture the NFL if everyone was a free agent at the end of every season.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be chaos.
Well, yeah, you can't sign a contract and leave. I mean, you have to have a commitment to be there for at least, if I were a school, I'd tell you, we're giving you good money, but you're going to be here until you either graduate or declare for the draft or eligibility is up.
Yeah, I think, it should be like a minimum 2 year or something like that. Or, there has to be some parameters, but I think the issue, there's definitely an issue to be addressed, but cutting off the NIL funds isn't the solution. It's here to stay. We just got to figure. I think the NCAA has to figure out how they're going to regulate the migration of these guys every year from team to team.
I absolutely agree. And now the third one is a little bit of a, there's some controversy about this, and I know that this is a very polarized time, particularly in Minnesota.
Yeah,
and go ahead.
And the Timberwolves decided to basically choose sides. And I watched the video, and initially they held a moment of silence for the woman that was shot by the ICE agent, which, if you follow on X at all, there's a lot of debate on both sides over, who was in the right, who was in the wrong. And, everybody's going to have their opinion. But, this is just another instance of one of the local professional sports teams diving into basically a political issue. We saw it with the George Floyd stuff, and we've seen it in other instances. I don't recall any of these teams holding a moment of silence for Justine Diamond, the Australian woman that was shot dead by the Somali police officer years ago in Minneapolis.
Yes.
So, I don't know if they do this, Bob, because they're all running, always, begging for cash from the state government, and since the state government's the DFL.
Oh, I don't doubt that has something that plays. Or it could, it could be just one person in the organization who thinks it's a good idea, and other people are afraid to stand up to the idea. I mean, they wanted every school district to have a moment of silence on Friday. I think that came from the education secretary in the state. I mean, you cannot decide what. Basically, I have a hard time when you decide you're going against both law enforcement and the federal government. Yeah. And we're going to get into in the next segment the number of people, the number of murderers and rapists, and just horrible people who have been swept up in ICE. And I guess the question is, are these protests now? What happened is tragic. It's horrific what happened to this woman. But, don't put yourself in positions and listen to law. Many of the people, if you think that the ICE agent was 100% wrong and that he should face charges, then you likely believe that she had every right to be there, and you have no problem with her basically trying to obstruct. Well, I grew up, and I think you grew up, where you have a respect for law enforcement, but they're also saying they're not law enforcement. You don't have, they can arrest. They absolutely can. That is the information that's coming out, and it's false. Much like it's false, there is no proof that what people are seeing online, that there is what looks like a police rap sheet for this woman. It was made up. There's no indication that her or her wife ever were brought up on charges of domestic violence against children, and certainly there's no proof anywhere that the wife was stubbing out cigarettes on the kids. This is just, you got to be careful what you read on social media.
Well,
use your own eyes.
You even have to be careful with, there's multiple videos that were taken that show what actually transpired. But there was, at one point, there was a photo the story was, it was taken by a drone overhead, and it was completely AI generated, and it showed him standing basically in front of the car. And there's been other ones. People showed, this massive protest on Friday night against ICE. And it again, AI generated. They had a crowd that was going about 4 blocks down to US Bank Stadium and stuff like that. So, AI is not helping in this either.
No, and by the way, a quick aside to people out there, be careful with, like these sports. There are several Vikings related sites that are nothing but lies. Yep. The one that about a month or two ago said that Carl Eller had passed away. Which one was that again? Do you remember the exact one? Because people got to stay away from these.
I forget which one, but yeah, there's always ones. In the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, every NFL player was going to be paying for his funeral and his kids' college education and all this stuff. And then it's the such and such NHL player won't wear the pride jerseys. They just keep stirring.
No, they do. And this one, there's one that with a skull or a Valhalla there. I think it's a skull one that showed a photo of US Bank Stadium on fire. How do you get away with this stuff? These things should be shut down.
Yeah.
And they're clickbait. By that, when you click, they make money. Don't let them make any money. Drain these people and choke them off because it's wrong what they're doing.
Right.
Makes me mad. All right, Jeff. You know what? Let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll have more of the BS show, and I'm going to read the story because it's one of the few newspapers that actually will have reported it from about the number and the type of people who have been arrested by ICE. So we'll take a quick break, and the BS show will be right back, hopefully with more from Jeff O'Brien.